Hello, hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Reading Joseph Smith. And we wanted to have a much larger compliment today. Fitzgerald apologized that he's not able to join us today. And Dalton has just blown us off. Dalton said he wouldn't be able to make it today either. And we tried on recommendation of Jimmy Snow, and who is here, fortunately, and a couple of other people had.
Remember that the Bible describes the earth as.
What is going on? All right. Well, yeah, my producer shall be spanked for that. All right, and
inadvertently touched a button.
Yeah,
it's going to be deleted.
You were going to invite on Bryce and a couple of other people from another similar show, and I was excited to have them, but apparently the messages were received too late. So Skeleton Crew will be a bigger compliment next week.
They have families and lives and stuff, all things that I don't bother with.
Yeah, are you as estranged from your entire family as I am from mine?
Not only that, I still to this day have these, like, last night I had another dream where I was like fighting with my parents, and I was like, cool, you'll never see me ever again, bye. But I've done that in real life already. We already had our last altercation. So it's like, what is going on? Why do I need to replay this? In this dream, for some reason, I also had a son, and I was like, you will never meet my son. I don't know. The whole thing was wild.
I'll never baptize
my son. Oh my goodness, that's my fault. Sorry, the audio just came back through. I opened the live chat, and then you're on my.
It's a funny thing about dreams. I sometimes dream that I'm not even me.
Yeah.
I dream that I'm me at different ages, but all of the details are different. I have different family members or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just a different wife, but I have different parents and all of that kind of arrangements. And sometimes I'm not even myself. I once dreamed that I was an old Indian man. With a bindi and everything. I don't know why.
Yeah. I have a couple of dream worlds there. I have one where I'm married and I have completely different family members. There's a few, and actually it's interesting that we're talking about dreams anyway, because that's actually the theme of today's episode, but we didn't do that on purpose. This isn't I didn't. I just brought it up because I thought it was an interesting factoid, because I think any of my stories are interesting, to the detriment of everyone I hold hostage when I tell them. Listen to my dreams.
There's a chat that I wanted to read. Independent Fundamental Atheist says, thanks, Aaron, for all you do. If I could be just half as smart as you, then I would be in good shape. Keep up the good work. Thank you for that. I don't want to call myself smart. I just studied one subject a bunch.
Yeah. So. Independent Fundamental Atheist is a solid username, by the way. I just want to...
I really like that username.
That is a sweet name. I'm definitely gonna steal that one day. Well, I'll probably do. I'm gonna be New Independent Fundamental Atheist. That's the Baptist.
Okay.
They did the both.
Yeah, I've been accused of being an evangelical atheist.
Yeah. At a certain point, I'm just like, you don't know what words are. Fuck off.
There is a definition for evangelical. There's a definition for fundamentalism, right? Like, words have meaning.
Yeah, they haven't figured out faith, and it's their whole fucking thing. So I don't have much hope for them with the word.
Matt White comments that Aaron dreams of being Indian because of his affinity for spicy food.
That could be.
It could be. I was eating curry this morning, for example. That was from my breakfast.
Brief breakfast. That is a bold move.
Yeah. All right. So, what? Anybody want to give an introduction to what we're going to be talking about today, or do we just dive into reading it?
I guess just to say that this is like a really big story. There's lots of references to this story throughout Mormon culture, and so like there are people who wear little bits of iron around their neck on their necklace, and that's to represent the iron rod, which you're going to find out about in this story. Yes, exactly. Yeah, look, oh my, but there's a whole song, hold to the rod, the iron.
No,
Yes.
not that.
Hold to the rod is like a thematic thing. And so, yeah, I also I told Aaron I would rewrite a parody of the Book of Love for the Tree of Life, but I forgot to do it. I forgot until this moment. The Tree of Life has bullshit in it. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I was spared Mormon culture, because as I think I mentioned last week, it was bad enough being trapped as a teenager, being trapped with my grandparents while they're goody two shoes kind of environment. They're watching the Lawrence Welk show, where everything is safe and there are no other races. And
Yeah,
you're the lucky one.
And I just couldn't I can't stand that leave it to Beaver kind of safe goody two shoes crap, you know.
You think that's bad? I grew up queer in the church, having to listen to Hold to the Rod. I
feel so conflicted.
You guys are sending me mixed messages here, man.
All right, so
I'm willing to get it started.
All right, who's reading first?
I'm down.
Okay.
First Nephi, chapter 8, verse 1. And it came to pass. Remember, okay, I know we're only 5 words in, but I feel like I have to note. Last week, we evolved. We graduated from verses that only have one and it came to pass in them to we literally had a verse last week that in a single verse had 2 and it came to passes. My God. And it came to pass.
Something really quick. Like, I always interpreted this chapter of a crazy old man having these ridiculous dreams and just started doing all the preaching to his family, and his
that's how all
youngest son
start out,
started believing all this. So
look at Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Throw it out there.
We just talked about our own crazy dreams. Imagine if we were calling our family. If I call my parents and I was like, "Hey, I know we don't really talk now after our last thing, but I had a dream last night. And now I have to call you and tell you I'm never talking to you again." But I've been doing that like every couple months.
Yeah, I wish I could say that I had the moment that you did, but no, it was my family that said we're not interested in talking to you again.
So my family are in such denial. They probably don't even realize it happened. I'm not even kidding. Like my dad growing up was the kind of person to like jump to an extreme punishment. And so it would be like, "Oh, we found out you're dating a Catholic girl. You are grounded for the rest of the year." And it'd be like February. And then like a week later, you're like, "Hey, so that's over, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't keep track. I don't give a shit." And so they probably think that it was just that, where I was like, "Cool, this is our last conversation," and they're probably like, "Yeah, but he'll be back." I imagine that's what they're thinking.
I got in trouble in high school for dating non-white girls.
That wouldn't have been an issue as long as they were Mormon in my family, but then again, why I was in Wyoming, like I can't think of it. I don't have a lot of examples of non-white Mormons in Wyoming. So
it did seem Blanco, yes, kind of monochromatic.
I should say it wouldn't have been a problem, but it would have been the topic of every meal. Still, it would have just been like it would have been my mom being like, "Oh, you're dating a black woman. Here is the list of every black person I've ever met."
Yeah. Count them on one hand.
Yeah. And then my dad telling
Michelle Obama.
And then my dad would tell stories of times that he like got in a fight with a black, not where he was on the same side as a black guy. He'd be like, yeah, when I was, I was working construction. It would have all been like, here's all the ways we're not racist. And it's like, guys, I've told her what happens when you leave. I've told her we're not allowed to watch The Proud Family. I've told her that it was a little while before we were allowed to watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and that's only because they feel like they assimilated. So it's like, come on, guys. Anyway.
Yeah. First sin.
5 words in, guys. I've come from a very white European family, and it came to pass that we had gathered together all manner of seeds of every kind, both of grain or of every kind, and also of the seeds of fruit of every kind. And it came to pass that while my father tarried in the wilderness, he spake unto us, saying, Behold, I have... Wait, what was Lehi's voice? Didn't we have one for him? Is he Gilbert Gottfried?
I lose track.
I've lost track too. I should be writing these down. Stewie Griffin. Behold, I have dreamed a dream, or in other words, I have a vision. And behold, because of the things which I have seen, I have reason to rejoice in the Lord because of Nephi and of also Sam. For I have, I can't do that the whole time. For I have reason to suppose that they and also many of their seed will be saved. But behold, Laman and Lemuel were too afraid to try. Nephi was correct. God, that
That's
program.
right. That song. I remember that one.
Fuck me, man.
I feel like there should be like a different musical instruments accompanying, you know, like the little flute for the bird and the oboe for the old man, the hunter, and then there would be like the cello for the wolf.
That would make it so much more interesting.
Laman and Lemuel should have the behold, Laman and Lemuel. Bump, bump. Okay, wait. I think I only have one ready, so we have to keep it for somebody good. Wait, no. Wait, I've got it. Wait. Behold, Laman and Lemuel.
Okay, that was a good one.
I fear exceedingly because of you, for behold, methought. This is such an obvious.
Who says that?
Oh my God! How can I believe this? Well, behold, now it almost sounds like he's trying to like be sort of fun and upbeat. For behold, this is Hamilton. Methought I saw him in a dream and dark and drear. No, I can't do that. I'm sorry. I just showed off that aforementioned whiteness. A dark and dreary wilderness. And it came to pass that I saw a man, and he was dressed in a white robe, and he came and stood before me. And it came to pass. Now, I'm lost on who this is because they keep saying I and me, but I've not gotten a single, it came to pass I Nephi or I Lehi. Who's talking anymore?
Well, it's always been Nephi, right? This is the chapter still Nephi.
Lehi.
So
no, this is Lehi speaking still.
Yeah, this is Lehi. I was just
this is the father. Yeah, this is the father figure.
Oh, I missed the transition completely.
Lehi was tarrying in the wilderness, tarried in the wilderness, and he came and he says, I had a dream, and in the dream I found reasons to rejoice in Nephi and Sam, but behold, Laman and Lemuel, for you, because methought I saw in my dream. Methought, oh, I can't get past that. Anyway, and it came to pass that he spake unto me and bade me follow him. And it came to pass that as I followed him, I beheld myself that I was in a dark and dreary waste. Do I have a suspenseful music one? I don't think I do. Sorry, guys. Maybe. No, that's not it.
I would think entirely different music when you say you beheld yourself.
All right. All I have ready for that right now is just, and it's poorly. That was not the right timing. And it came to pass. Where am I? Generally, what year is this? And after I had traveled for the space of many hours in darkness, I began to pray unto the Lord that he would have mercy on me, according to the multitude of his tender mercies, like the times he committed genocide. All of those tender mercies, just a multitude. And it came to pass, after I had prayed unto the Lord, I beheld a large and spacious field. And it came to pass that I beheld a tree whose fruit was desirable to make one happy.
And it came to pass.
I
just had to do one.
I was going to suggest somebody take over, but at a certain point, the end it came to pass feels like a prank. There's too many of them too often. It really does. it really feels like Joseph and Oliver is like, okay, we've got to put this joke to bed. People are starting to believe us. If we just keep saying and it came to pass, someone's going to point out, guys, come on, this is an obvious joke.
I'm surprised that didn't come up in the Mormon movie. What was it? The Book of Mormon, or the stage play? I don't remember this phrase coming up one time.
And it came to pass?
Yeah.
I guess I don't. I've only heard the soundtrack, and it's been a while. I haven't had the opportunity to see it.
It's good. It's worth seeing.
It's really good.
Yeah. I would see it in London if you can, because that was the best venue. It tends to be a whole lot more expensive when it comes to the States.
Yeah, I'll just go and wait in London. I also hate flying over the ocean. I have a thing about it.
Okay, continue, please.
Do you want to? You're welcome to take these and it came to passes if you like.
All right, which verse are we on?
11.
11. Okay. And it came to pass that I did go forth and partake of the fruit thereof, and I beheld that it was most sweet, above all that I had before tasted. Yeah. And I believed that the fruit thereof was white, to exceed all the whiteness that I had ever seen.
Yeah, we're getting into it.
And as I partook of the fruit thereof, it filled my soul with exceedingly great joy. I want to make a face for that. Exceedingly great joy. Wherefore I began to be desirous that my family should partake of it also. For I knew it was desirable above all other fruit. I'm guessing he's not talking about durian here.
But the funny thing is like people are like, all right, it's like skimming the whole like white is more desirable, but that's not what he means. It's pretty much this wording later when they are literally talking about white skin. So for anybody who thinks there might be some fucked up racial undertones, yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Nailed it.
And as I cast my eyes round about, okay, that perhaps I might discover my family also, I beheld a river of water, because you have to specify it's a river of water because there's so many other options at that time. And it ran along, and it was near the tree of which I was partaking the fruit.
Methought a roundabout. I can't get past roundabout now. Hey, this isn't the first time an American's had trouble with a roundabout. Am I right?
Oh,
nailed it. Suck a butt, you fuckers. That was a perfect.
Yeah, I have to confess, I had a slight problem with a roundabout in Northern Ireland. I forgot that you need to slow down.
I just went for it.
I flew through it. I think the wheels came off the, the window. Yeah, I was only on two wheels at one point, and my wife screamed. Okay, enough. And then I looked to behold from whence it came. From whence it came. That's a misuse of the word whence. But I guess that's not a surprise.
From whence it came. Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't. Yeah, it's redundant if you put from in front of it, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah. And I looked to behold whence it came, and I saw the head thereof a little way off. The head thereof.
The head of the river.
The river? Okay.
And we're only 8 chapters in. He get like at a certain point he's leaning into it too hard, and you're just expecting, and behold, 'twas the winter of our discontent.
And at the head thereof I beheld your mother, Sariah, and Sam, and Nephi. And you were there, and you were there. And they stood as if they knew not whither they should go.
I'm sorry, but and at the head thereof I beheld your mother is a solid your mom joke.
Yeah, this is so reminding me of a creation story by the Fire Sign Theater. I've got to share that at some point. And it came to pass, ba-doom-boom, that I beckoned unto them, and I also did say unto them while I was beckoning, with a loud voice, that they should come unto me.
Oh my.
Oh my.
That sounds so wrong on so many levels.
And partake of the fruit, which was desirable above all other fruit. Look, it's white.
By the way, the depictions of it in Mormonism, not only is it white, it's glowing. Like, I know what's fucked up with Lehi. He ate fruit laced with uranium. Dude, like,
okay, so this guy's eating light bulbs, lit
yeah,
light bulbs.
yeah, they kind of look like it, yeah.
Hey, and it came to pass that they did come unto me and partake of the fruit also. And it came to pass that I was desirous that Laman and Lemuel should come and partake of the fruit also. Wherefore I cast mine eyes towards the head of the river, that perhaps I might see them. And it came to pass that I saw them, but they would not come unto me and partake of the fruit. And I beheld a rod of iron, and it extended along the bank of river and led to the tree by which I stood. And I also beheld a straight and narrow path, which came along by the rod of iron, even to the tree by which I stood. And it also led by the head of the fountain unto a large and spacious field, as if it had been a world. And I saw numberless concourses of people, many of whom were pressing forward that they might obtain the path which led unto the tree by which I stood. There's elements of Dr. Seuss in here too, the kind of redundancy I'm reading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he writes this like it was an assignment with a word limit.
Yeah, you gotta make 500 pages and
Right,
10,000 words.
Yeah, it's like 1,000. It's like, oh man, I've written this stupid story, but I'm short 200 words. All right, what if before I say I saw Laman and Lemuel, I say I looked out a ways to see if I could see Laman and Lemuel, and then I saw Laman and Lemuel. It's fucking.
I'll just add it came to pass to every word, every sentence, you know?
Every time I would normally have said then, I'll put 5 words instead of 1.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the Mormons are sitting there going like, this is a really important story to us, but we're kind of embarrassed about it. At least you'd hope, because how fucking embarrassing for them. This is just boring.
Verse 22, I think, is where I'm at here.
Yeah.
And it came to pass that they did come forth and commence in the path which led to the tree. And it came to pass that there, that came to pass is like it's talking about a long time eventually, right? I mean, they can't, everything here can't be a long time eventually.
Well,
but anyway,
and it's hard to get past now, and we've only read 2% of them for the whole fucking book. There's so many more to come.
There arose a mist of darkness. Yeah, even an exceedingly great mist of darkness, insomuch that they who had commenced on the path did lose their way, that they wandered off and were lost.
Dun, dun, dun.
A mist of darkness. Is that smoke? Anyway, I'm trying to imagine what a mist of darkness looks like.
Yeah, dark fog, I suppose.
And it came to pass that I beheld others pressing forward, and they came forth and caught hold of the end of the rod of iron. And they did press forward through the mist of darkness, clinging to the rod of iron, until they did come forth and partake of the fruit of the tree. There's there's a lot of nothing going on here. There's people wandering through a fog. That they're in some sort of a public park.
Yeah,
where they've got they've got a
24.
sidewalk. They've got a sidewalk with a guardrail that leads up to this tree full of light bulbs. And okay, so now the smoke has come to try to stop them from getting to the light bulbs, but they're light bulbs, so it's pretty easy to find even without the guardrail. Anyway,
I needed 5 verses to do what 24 has done so far. Though I don't know if you've all seen the pollution cloud over Salt Lake City. That could be a cloud of darkness, but they don't have iron rails up there for shit.
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles in the 70s. The sky was brown. I know that environment.
Denver's not great on a lot of days too. It was crazy when Denver's like got this bowl quality to it, so it just all gets blown in from everywhere too and just sits there. And but then the pandemic happened and we were like, oh my god, we can breathe for the first time while everyone else is dying of this lung disease.
And after they had partaken of the fruit of the tree, they did cast their eyes about as if they were ashamed. And I also cast my eyes round about, and beheld on the other side of the river of water a great and spacious building, and it stood as it were in the air, high above the earth. Now this is supposed to have been written like how many years ago? When was this supposed to be? 700 BC?
596 BCE.
596 BC. Okay, and we have a building, a spacious building.
Great.
Okay, and it stood as if it were high in the air above the earth.
We're still in the dream, by the way.
So granted.
It's a dream building.
And it's a dream mist.
Yeah, it's
and we're gonna.
And it was.
Yeah. Go
yes.
Ahead. Well, we're gonna probably read the Lucy Mack Smith story, right, where she dictates where this story actually came from, which is Joseph Smith's father, who actually dictates it to Joseph Smith in his youth, and then he puts it in the Book of Mormon as if Lehi was said it. So Lehi, being the father figure, has this dream, and then matches the real life history.
But true believing Mormons are going to say that was on purpose. God gave Joseph Sr. the dream to help Joseph later in life further recognize the truth of it, because meeting God probably wasn't enough.
I get a little confused. When you read the Bible, it tends to make people atheist.
Yeah.
Do Mormons read this book?
Yeah, no, the Book of Mormon is probably more important to Mormons than the Bible, because they stole, like, third Nephi, they're just going to steal the parts of the Bible they think is important and then add some bullshit about Jesus comes to America. He's coming to America. But it's the Book of Mormon's like, Nephi's your guy. When you, like, growing up as a kid, you idolize Joseph and you idolize Nephi from a very early age, and then you start learning some of the other stories and you think Ammon's cool with his matrix powers and shit, but for the most part you're like, yeah, I am Nephi, obedient, and that's pretty much it.
I'm going to read a couple of chats before we get much further. So AAABBB HUF, I'm not sure what that HUF 2000, no idea what that currency is, says maybe Joseph Smith invented Mormonism so Christians would know how Jews feel.
It is a Hungarian forint, a Hungarian forint.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for that. And then super chat from Kamal for £4.99 says, your Debunking Noah's Flood series saved my life. You are a real hero, Aaron. Thank you. Well, thank you for saying that. I honestly didn't think I needed to do the Noah's Flood series, but I've gotten an awful lot of compliments on it, and that from people that are saying that they needed that series to change their minds, which amazes me. I thought it was all covered, and apparently it wasn't. So appreciate that.
I just debunked a TikToker who's still spouting that they found Noah's Ark and then also spouting the thing about chariot wheels at the bottom of the Red Sea, which the origin of that story is basically an Onion article, not literally the Onion, but a similar satire article. Yeah, they're still doing it.
Well, the origin of the ark being found on the top of Ararat is something like that. Also, that was a known fraud, Ron Wyatt, who actually took Christians up there on a field trip, and they left him. They left him disgusted because he was a fraud. They're on Ararat. They see what he calls the ark. They realize that it's literally dirt.
Yeah.
That it's dirt that is vaguely canoe shaped because of the way snow melts. You know, when you find a rock obstruction, the snow melts on either side of it. So it carves out a canoe-shaped pattern. It's not even the only canoe-shaped pattern up there. There's another one just a short distance away that some photographs will even show both of them together.
Right.
You know, Noah wasn't supposed to have two arks, but these people realize this is dirt, and this guy who took us up here is a buffoon. And
but he would say it was petrified wood, right? Is what he
yeah.
What he's like, these formations, he's like, this is petrified woods, and these people are going up and they're like, now I'm not a geologist. That's a fucking dirt clod, bud.
Yeah, we're not going to talk a lot about Ron White.
I actually believe that is the literal ark when in reality it's just a mountain.
Yeah, it's a natural formation on the mountain.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of crazy.
The problem is getting somebody to admit that, and to their credit, Answers in Genesis actually did. I think they pulled the article since, but they actually did come out and call Ron Wyatt a fraud.
Yeah,
good.
And their geologist said the same thing. Like, there's no petrified wood up there. That's all.
So, and then we have another one. I love this username, Sapient Haggis. Offers 10 pounds. Thank you very much. It says, and it came to pass, 2 Mormons walketh up to the bar and spaketh to the bartender, 2 grape Lehis, please. All right, so getting back into this, and what verse was I on? It was 27.
Yeah.
And it was filled with people. This is the giant floating building. It was filled with people, both old and young, both male and female, and their manner of dress was exceedingly fine.
Okay, for the record, it's not a floating building. I don't want to get the easy stuff wrong because people will be fucking dicks. It's just super tall, and so like depicted as like breaching the clouds, basically. So it's.
Why did I get the impression it was floating?
Because it says, and it stood as it were in the air, high above the earth. That's because you read it with literacy, but more than
because a dream building wouldn't float. I mean, that would be ridiculous.
Insane, just insane.
But there are actually Mormons who actually do believe that it literally floats.
Oh, I've never heard the float version. I've only heard the skyscraper version.
These two
great and spacious building. My always.
And that it was surrounded by the river of filth, which I think we're getting to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and their manner of dress was exceedingly fine, and they were in the attitude of mocking, and pointing their fingers toward those who had come at and were partaking of the fruit.
Now, I
look at that. They're eating fruit.
Yeah, I want to point out that this is the mocking and the pointing of fingers and straying from the path. That is an attempt to inoculate a believer against any kind of criticism or scorn. That's a very nefarious
to even embrace it. It's even embrace the like, I'm being mocked, but I am right now eating the radioactive fruit while they're over there in their building that I know it's. I really hate to be the spoiler guy, but it's gonna collapse, and so I'm gonna be good with my fruit, and they're gonna be dead in a collapsed building.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna continue to eat my light bulbs.
Yeah.
And after they had tasted the fruit, they were ashamed because of those that were scoffing at them, and they fell away into forbidden paths and were lost.
See, don't let go of the rod. Don't let go.
Yeah.
You got to stay on the path.
Hold on to, keep believing.
Don't listen to those naysayers, those atheists,
And if somebody criticizes you or disagrees with you, that's vindication that you're right.
Walker, be fair. They didn't like Protestants either.
Say, and now I, Nephi, because I'm not Levi anymore. I'm Nephi. I'm Nephi again.
Yeah.
Do not speak all the words of my father.
So my bad. Nephi was speaking the whole time, but was speaking Lehi's words. Yeah. I'm sorry. I must have gotten confused when it's so straightforward.
I got confused when it said that the building is in the air and it isn't.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Okay.
Fucking Avengers over here.
But to be short in writing...
He said 30. That's what I'm saying, man. Joseph is fucking with you people. This is a bit. He's trying out for SNL or some shit.
You know, I mean, because let me think about it. Like, he's like dinging brass with a hammer to spell out these words. To be short.
Yeah.
And it came to pass. You know?
Yeah, so the dread beast of perhaps he died while writing it. Well, you wouldn't just write out you just say it.
Oh, man.
But to be short in writing, which is clearly not the purpose of this whole text, behold, he saw other multitudes pressing forward, and they came and caught hold of the end of the rod of iron, and they did press their way forward, continually holding fast to the rod of iron until they came forth and fell down and partook of the fruit of the tree.
I can't remember the last time I came forth so hard that I fell down.
Yeah. And apparently they're eating the fruit of the tree on the ground now.
Yeah. They're eating the stuff that fell off the tree. Bad tree.
I'm wondering how luminous the fruit is when it's on the ground. And he also saw other multitudes feeling their way towards that great and spacious building. And it came to pass again that many were drowned in the depths of the fountain, and many were lost from his view, wandering in strange roads. Why were people lost why were people drowned in the depths of the fountain?
That's my fault. Yeah, I feel like there are details missing that I must be just thinking of the way it was depicted, because the photos they give you in the church and like in lessons and stuff, it's not just a fountain. It's like this big river of filth that's supposed to be like mud, poison, Coke Zero, all gross stuff. But this is suggesting something smaller. So my Mormon propaganda in my head is mixing up.
Okay. And now I'm on verse 32, and it came to pass, of course, because
no, this is 33. That's the one you just read.
What's that?
33.
Oh, you're right. 33. And great was Peter, you want to take off one of those, and it came to passes. And great was the multitude that did enter into that strange building. And after they did enter that building, they did point the finger of scorn at me and those that were partaking of the fruit also. But we heeded them not. Ignore the naysayers. These are the words of my father, for as many as heeded them had fallen away. And Laman and Lemuel.
Oh, my bad. I was thinking.
All right, I won't require that anymore. And Laman and Lemuel partook of the fruit, said my father. Partook not of the fruit, because they were the evil ones.
Right.
And it came to pass.
If only there was some obvious visual way to recognize which one the evil ones were. Only they could just make them look different in some way. But I don't know. Maybe that'll come later.
It came to pass after my father had spoken all of these words of his dream or vision, which were many, he said unto us, because of these things which he saw in a vision, he exceedingly feared for Laman and Lemuel.
I remember.
Yeah, he feared lest they should be cast off from the presence of the Lord. And he did exhort them then with all the feeling of a tender parent, that they would hearken to his words, that perhaps the Lord would be merciful to them and not cast them off. Yeah, my father did preach unto them. And after he had preached unto them, and also prophesied unto them of many things, he bade them to keep the commandments of the Lord, and he did cease speaking unto them.
So to be clear, Lehi is going, hey guys, you remember how you met an angel when you were beating the shit out of Nephi? I'm thinking that wasn't enough to convince you that you should believe and you should act accordingly. So last night I had a dream that you went to a bitchin' party. And clearly that now you should be righteous. Because we had fruit. Oh, I forgot to mention, we had fruit. You were at a party, but we had fruit. So obviously, it doesn't add up to me.
I want to read Lucy Joseph Smith's mom's recount of the story from 1811, because I've got it right here. So I'm gonna From this point forward, my husband seemed more confirmed than ever in his opinion that there were no other class of religionists who knew any more concerning the kingdom of God than those of the world, or such as it made no profession of religion whatsoever. So he didn't believe in any of the churches. He didn't join the Methodist Church. He wouldn't.
Which, by the way, Mormons pose that era as they're all of these churches. And so when Joseph finds out none of the churches are true and he'd have to start the real one, it's supposed to be a surprise to him. Like Mormons sort of think like, this is blowing his mind. Surely there must be a true church. But you also find out that Joseph Sr. already felt that
had
way.
that opinion, and then probably Joseph Smith adopted it, right?
Exactly.
And part of the reason why Joseph Smith Sr. didn't join any church is because his son died, and they had his funeral in one of the churches, and they basically said this your son went to hell because he wasn't baptized. So that pissed off Joseph Smith Sr., and he was very upset with that, and so didn't join any church after that.
And now in Mormonism, if you die as a baby, you automatically go to heaven. No
yes, they think that's why. Yeah, that's probably where that doctrine came from, right? Whether the age of accountability, if you die and you're younger than 8, that you get a VIP ticket to heaven.
Shit, I could have been doing this the whole time with Nephi. I'm so sorry, guys.
Okay,
right,
so
here it is.
That was the saving grace for me. My family believed that you wait until that age of accountability, the age of reason, as they called it, that when you're 8 years old. So they weren't going to indoctrinate me. They weren't going to teach me anything about the religion until I was 8. And it was the morning of my 8th birthday that my mom walked in with a Bible in hand to try to tell me how this was the absolute truth and all of that. And I already knew better. I had already, I was in 2nd grade. I had already seen like a cladogram of, dinosaurs and how they were related to other things. And I could see how everything was related to each other. I knew that was real. So I was very fortunate that they waited until 8, because if they hadn't, I know that indoctrination prior to that, like the old Jesuits say, you give me a child until they are 7 and I will show you the man.
Yeah.
You will stunt the child's ability to do critical thinking, and many people don't ever recover it.
I just love the image in my head of being like, Mom, I'm 8. I wasn't born yesterday. That's great.
You believe this? I thought you believe in Santa Claus too.
Mom,
yeah, I remember my first critique of it when she told me this is the absolute truth and word, and I read it, and my response was, no, it isn't. See what it says here?
Yeah.
That was my paraphrased. That was my reaction. I'm going to read a couple of chats from Tussock for £2.50. Says, this is a load of old shite. Tell us a joke. Okay, well, and then X Gamer offers $10 and says 2 things. Please do yeah in the voice of Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, brother.
And also, could you just say ICTP, ice tip, instead of it came to pass in order to save time.
Wait, no. How was it worded? Not in order to save time, but oh shit, what was it? What verse was that where he's like, oh, but to be short in writing.
But to be short in writing, ice tip.
Yeah. I want to save time, but ice tip is going to become just the tip before long, and that's almost the same number of vowel, like not vowel.
Yep. So are we going to move to chapter 9?
Let's finish up with Walker reading the
oh yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so in 1811 we the Smith family moved from Royalton, Vermont to Lebanon, New Hampshire. And shortly after we arrived, my husband had another vision, which is as follows. I thought, said he, I was traveling in an open, desolate field, which appeared to be very barren, and while thus traveling, the thought suddenly came into my mind that I had better stop and reflect upon what I was doing before I went any further. So I asked myself, what motive could I have in traveling here, and what place can this be? My guide, who stood before me, said, this is the desolate world, but travel on. The road was so broad and barren that I wondered why I should travel in it. For I said to myself, broad is the road and wide is the gate that leads to death, and many there be walk therein. But narrow is the way and straight is the gate that leads to the everlasting life. And few there that go in retreat. I don't know how that's pronounced. I traveled a short distance farther, came to a narrow path, entered it, proceeded some farther, beheld a beautiful stream of water which ran from east to west of the stream. I could neither see the source nor the mouth, but page turn 1 second. But as far as my eyes could extend, I could see a rope running along the bank, about as high as a man could reach, and beyond me was a low but very pleasant valley in which stood a tree such as I had never seen before. It was exceedingly handsome, insomuch that I looked upon it with wonder and admiration, and its beautiful branches spread themselves somewhat in the form of an umbrella, and it bore a kind of fruit in a shape much like a chestnut burr, and as white and whiter than the snow. I gazed upon the fruit, which is considerably interest, presented the burrs and shells, and began to open and shed their particles and the fruit that which they contain. So it's a little bit Barbie. You don't know about chestnut. They're kind of prickly. The fruit which they contained, which is of dazzling whiteness, I drew in and began to eat it, and found it delicious beyond description. And I was eating, and I said in my heart, I cannot eat this alone. I must bring my wife and children, and they must partake with me. According, I went and brought my family, which consisted of my wife, my 7 children, and all commenced eating and praising God for this blessing. We were exceedingly happy, and in so much of our joy we could not easily be expressed. While we were engaged in this manner, I beheld a spacious building, standing opposite the valley that we were in, which building appeared to reach into the very heavens. It was full of doors and windows, and they were all filled with people that were very finely dressed. When these people observed us in the low valley under the tree, they pointed their finger and scorned at us, and treated us with all manner of disrespect and contempt. But their contumely, oh man, we utterly disregarded, and soon turned to my guide, inquired of him of me the meaning of the fruit, and he told me that it was pure, page turn, the pure love of God, shed abroad from the hearts of those who loved him and kept his commandments. He then commanded me to go and bring the rest of my children, and I told him we were all here, and no, he said, no, look yonder, you have 2 more, and you must bring them also. So I raised my eyes, saw 2 small children standing some distance off. I immediately went to them, brought them to the tree, and they commenced eating with us, and we all rejoiced together. The more we eat, the more we seem to desire, until we've got down upon our hands and knees and scooped it up, eating it by the double handfuls. After feasting in this manner for a short time, I asked my guide what was the meaning of the spacious building, and he replied, it is Babylon. It is Babylon. It must fall. The people and the doors and windows inhabitants thereof, who scorn and despise the saints of God because of their humility. I soon woke, clapping my hands together for joy.
So it is equally boring, the Joseph Sr. version.
Right.
That much we know. So I sent it to you on Twitter. I don't know if you can put stuff on the screen or not, Aaron, but I sent in Twitter DMs. There are Mormons who believe that the Izapa Stela 5, which is a stela from the Mesoamerican era. They think there are Mormons who believe that that's actually a depiction of the tree of life. It's a stretch, as are many things in Mormonism, but there are people who think that's basically anthropological proof that the Book of Mormon is true, even though this would date some 300 to 500 years later.
Go ahead.
No, after you.
All right, I'm looking at the image that you shared with me, and okay, so there is a relief that it is a Mesoamerican building that centers around a tree. How that is an anthropological tree of life is beyond me.
There's water in the thing too, so okay. How dare you? there's
And so I want to quote a BYU archaeologist about that topic, right? So this is a true believing Mormon dude, right? And in the Journal of Mormon Studies, Volume 8, Number 1, he says, none of the elements in this monument fits one's expectations about Lehi's dreams. Instead, the scene appears to be concerned of royalty, their subjects, their relationships to a deity, and the cosmos. Some Latter-day Saints feel that this needs to seek a relationship between Stela 5 and the Book of Mormon history, but Lehi connection that Jakeman, the guy who espoused that, goes nowhere, in my opinion.
And he was subsequently fired from a cannon into the sun. There's plenty of that in the church too, where people go, there's plenty of proof that that's not true. Well, you have certain scholars who will say, no, you guys are getting these things wrong. It doesn't really matter. I feel like the horse figurine was the most recent example of people being like, it's a quadruped, but you guys are taking a lot of leaps saying that this was a horse figurine from Book of Mormon times. I will say, I looked it up, and in LDS Living, the thing that I had hypothesized toward the beginning of the episode, that Mormons would just say the fact that Joseph Sr. had the vision just makes it all the more true. Turns out that's in their magazine, because in LDS Living, they literally have an article that starts with, Lehi and Nephi are not the only ones to have a vision of the tree of life. Joseph Smith's father saw the tree of life vision at least 9 years before the first vision and 19 years before the Book of Mormon was published. Consider the vision, and then they offer it. But again,
that's funny how Christians will use that same kind of apologetic as a criticism of Charles Darwin by saying that Darwin's grandfather had a similar idea.
Yeah, but crickets when it comes to Well, it makes sense why God would give visions to the brother than the father, and the whole thing's stupid.
Well, that's why it's only illegal to misuse classified documents when Hillary does it.
That's right. Yeah, and it's only fucked up to politicize the DOJ. I just think that is so fucking funny that they are literally going like, how dare you? How dare the FBI and the DOJ go after a political opponent of the current president? It's not like the last president said during presidential debates that he would put his opponent in jail if he won. Oh, that's exactly what he said. Oh shit, I forgot. There's no one. Literally was, you'd be in jail. That was his big response. You'd be in jail if I was president. You'd be in jail. Fucking, how the fuck? And then he's trying to get Ukraine to open investigations against his opponents and shit. And it's like, who the fuck are you guys virtue signaling this shit to? Anyway, I will volunteer to read the entire next chapter if you like, as it is only 6 verses.
Yeah, you're welcome to do it.
Let's do it. I guess in this case, he finally decided to be short in writing. No, okay, fine. Where's my... No, I won't blah, blah, blah myself. And all these things, this is verse 1 of chapter 9. And all these things did my father see and hear and speak as he dwelt in a tent in the valley of Lemuel. And also a great many more things which cannot be written upon these plates, because you might check the details against the other. little aside there. And now as I have spoken concerning these plates, behold, they are not the plates upon which I make a full account of the history of my people. For the plates upon which I make a full account of my people, I have given the name of Nephi. Wherefore they are called the plates of Nephi after mine own name, and these plates also are called the plates of Nephi. So this is why there's a first and second Nephi. It won't make more sense when we get there, though. Nevertheless, I have received a commandment of the Lord that sorry, we actually do need to go back. He's literally sitting there going like, here's what I've done. I've created a book and it's about me, and I've called it Nephi. Now I've also made a book and it's about my people and what would happen. To avoid confusion, I've called it Nephi.
Yeah. And it's even funnier because so if you think of the actual timeline, Joseph Smith, remember, he just lost the papers. Right? Lucy hides the papers, the 106 pages, and says, okay, redo the book of Lehi. This is the moment in time where they jump ahead, write the third book of Nephi and the second book of Nephi, then come back to this part of the story and continue writing on. So all the prophecies that they're going to write about, they've already written, right? So Joseph Smith knows what's going to happen because he's already written it down. Now he can go forward with the chronological timeline and then fulfill every prophecy that he's already written.
And all the while just laughing. He's like, they're never going to believe this. You can't put that in there. Oh my God. Hang on. Let's take a break from writing the Book of Mormon. I'm going to go tell these fuckers that there are Quakers on the moon. Because he did that. He did that. That's a real thing. Fucking, they're 6 feet tall. Dressed like Quakers.
It does have an L. Ron Hubbard sort of a feel to it, doesn't it?
L. Ron, I feel like had more of the like, I write fiction stories, and then one day was just like, nah, fuck all of you. And then it really feels like a practical joke now on the other side of Mormonism. Like, you almost wonder if he hadn't been killed in the jail, was he like a week away from revealing the whole thing? It's just like, guys, I'm actually from Vice News. I was doing an article on how easily cults spring up. Really sorry to anybody who like left their homes, but it was all for the journalism. I don't know, man. The whole thing is just.
So there was a guy that not 2 miles from my house, not even that far. There was a guy who came over from Taiwan, and he bought a house out in my neighborhood, and he declared himself to be some sort of a prophet of God, if not God himself. No, he had to be a prophet of God because he was prophesying that God was going to arrive in a flying saucer at his property. God's going to fly his flying saucer to a place where there is no landing strip in the suburbs. And so all of these other people from Taiwan, from his cult, all left their home country and came over to America and bought houses adjacent to his own. So now there's a whole neighborhood within a neighborhood of Taiwan people who are all waiting for God's flying saucer. And that remarkably happened just, that was in 2011. When God was supposed to show up. And it made the news because there's all these people that had invested their life savings and everything in buying these houses and everything to wait for God to show up in the flying saucer. And as these prophecies happened, it came and went and nothing ever happened. And then the guy said that it did. It's just that nobody noticed it because you have to be spiritual to believe it in the first place. And the cult was over with because, not everybody can buy into that kind of a bullshit story.
I mean, but they bought it enough to move there. And it's got to be some type of profound loneliness that primes people to believe that level of shit in the first place. And how many people's lives would be saved if we just had a government program that distributed porn and fleshlights? Like, fucking Christ. Guys.
Okay, I'm going to read another chat. Matt White says, L. Ron Hubbard and Andy Devine. You never saw them in the same room. Coincidence? Yeah, I think when we're done with the Book of Mormon series, I might move on to Scientology. I don't know. If I need to fill a gap, I might do that one.
Oddly, right, so, it'll put you in the most danger. Like that's the weird fucking shit. You can do in America, you can do the Quran, the Book of Mormon, the Bible. You start fucking with Scientology, you're gonna notice the same people on your block outside looking at your house a lot.
I have heard similar things.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I apologize for all of the tangents that I feel like I'm probably responsible for. Did I finish verse 2 or are we on verse 3? Yeah, verse 3. Nevertheless, I have received a commandment of the Lord that I should make these plates for the special purpose that there should be an account engraven of the ministry of my people.
I found out what my special purpose is for.
Finally, upon the other, I'm just standing over here, great in stature. Like, what am I going to do with all of this, bod? Upon the other plates should be engraven an account of the reign of the kings and the wars and contentions of my people. Wherefore, these plates are for the most part of the ministry, and the other plates are for the most part of the reign of the kings and the wars and contentions of my people. Nephi really knows a lot of what's going to happen ahead of time. Wherefore, the Lord hath commanded me to make these plates for a wise purpose in him, which purpose I do not, or I know not. But the Lord knoweth all things from the beginning. Wherefore he prepareth the way to accomplish all his works among the children of men. For behold, he hath all power unto the fulfilling of all his words. And thus it is. Amen. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
So the Mormons brag that they are one of the fastest growing religions and that they have people all over the world. So that leads me to think that there are people translating the Book of Mormon into Korean, and
Yep.
I'm just wondering, how do you take such bullshit phrasing?
Yeah.
You would have to be cleaned up, right? I mean, anybody translating this to any other language, if you translated this to English, it would be cleaner than it is.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is we could leave this chapter out because nothing in this chapter came to pass.
And this chapter is really him just making an excuse for the plates that he lost, right? This is not prophetic in any way. He's just covering his ass, right? He's like, oh, we lost those plates. Let's start over and let's ignore that those plates that were lost, and we're going to start a new Nephi book here and a Nephi book here, and yeah.
Here in Nephi, there in Nephi, everywhere in Nephi.
Okay. Joseph, everything Joseph does originates somewhere else, right? Here is my sketch idea of where and it came to pass came from. Visualize 1800s bedroom. Joseph, and you don't have to get too detailed, is having relations with Emma and says, "Did you come?" And she says, "Pass." No? Nothing? I thought that was brilliant. Fuck. All right, guys. I won't be back.
I predicted you would say something. Or did I prophesy?
There you go.
I have an
Okay.
actual believing member of the church once explained it to me. If you read Hebrew and you understand Hebrew, the word begotten or birthed or could also mean it came to pass. And so you could, a true believer is going to say that's a very common, every time they say that, the begotten son of God and things like that, they're using, in the Hebrew, they're using that same terminology, same phrase.
Okay, so I just want to get it.
In the live chat liked my story, so I feel.
One person didn't see it coming. All right, so I just want to get a recounting. So we have Nephi. I'm not sure how many chapters are in that. And then after Nephi, we have there's like second Nephi. And I was trying to scroll back in this to find out where the other chapters are, and suddenly I got to a bunch of pictures.
Are you just wanting to know how far in we are?
There's 22. There's 22 chapters in the first Nephi.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're on chapter 8?
Yeah, but we're about to start 10, which also has 22 verses in it, which makes me inclined to think that this is going to be a short show today. That we probably aren't going to do that one until next week.
Is it an important one? Because we could try to power through, and I can try to minimize my thoughts.
Like I have
I don't want to
do.
minimize your thoughts, sir. I have valued your input on everything you've had to say because I don't know anything.
I'll reduce
about
my
the Book of
thoughts
Mormon.
and eliminate my prayers.
Like I need to get going early. Like I have something to do coming up. So sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so are we going to try to power through then?
I think so. I'm down.
Okay.
All right. Shall I?
I'll see y'all later.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see
Bye, Joseph.
See you, sir.
Seeing you.
Okay, go ahead.
And now I, Nephi. It's even better when it's done at the right time. Proceed to give an account upon these plates of my proceedings and my reign and ministry. Wherefore, to proceed with mine account, I must speak somewhat of the things of my father and also of my brethren. For behold, it came to pass that after my father had made an end of speaking the words of his dream and also of exhorting them to all diligence, he spake unto them concerning the Jews. Because they've always got, this is where it gets fucked up. And you're just like, you have to keep remembering the Book of Mormon is meant to be a history of the Jews, where the Jews are usually the bad guy and the good guy, but also the bad guy. And
it's kind of like the Bible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's anti-Semitic Trek, basically. That after they should be destroyed, even that great city Jerusalem, and many be carried away captive into Babylon, according to the own due time of the Lord, they should return again. Yeah, even be brought back out of captivity, and after they should be brought back out of captivity, they should possess again the land of their inheritance. Yeah, I feel I should explain once again. We're saying, we know it's yay. Yeah, it's funnier. Yeah. Even 600.
Hold on. Let me honor the previous request. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Much of it. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it just came to pass. Yeah, even 600 years from the time that my father left Jerusalem, a prophet would the Lord God raise up among the Jews, even a Messiah, or in other words, a savior of the world. And he also spake concerning the prophets, how great a number had testified of these things.
Can I just say something about what the first four there?
Yeah,
in the original 1830s account, it didn't say Messiah; it said Christ, and so that's very anachronistic in that timeline. And then it also seems like nobody read, none of the people read the book of Nephi, because all of the other prophets like Alma and Messiah later in the book, they're like, oh, Christ is coming. He's coming. It'll be so soon. But it's like, no. Nephi said 600 years in the future, Christ will come. But Messiah and Alma didn't read the book, because if they read the book, they know they have like 100 years before Christ is going to come. It's not like he's coming soon. He'll be here tomorrow, guys.
I feel like I can remember my dad addressing some of this shit, and I'm serious. Like, some of their explanations are just like, yeah, so Joseph probably just mixed it up when he wrote it because he knew they were talking about Christ. So it wasn't that he was literally, you start to, as you're looking in the hat toward the end of the day, your eyes are getting a little wary, and you just say Christ instead of Messiah one time.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
Stop his toe.
Yeah. The ethereal theory wasn't working to autocorrect.
Yeah.
I'm going to read another chat. Matt White says, we need to tell Jimmy he's funny. He really is. Come on, guys. He's relying on our support.
I just want to point out that after that live chat, not a single person followed up by saying he's funny. So, oh, God. Okay. And where was I? 5. And he also spake concerning the prophets, how great a number had testified of these things concerning this Messiah of whom he had spoken, or this Redeemer of the world. Wherefore all mankind were in a lost and in a fallen state, and ever would be, save they should rely on this Redeemer. And he spake also concerning a prophet who should come before the Messiah to prepare the way of the Lord. I wonder if these are the verses that Mormons seem to believe when Jesus came, he was like a complete original. Like, he was the first person preaching, as if everything going on then in Rome and Jerusalem was just people like, oh, we just kill each other, right? Because there's no rules saying we shouldn't, and everything's just chaos and terrible. And then Jesus shows up and it's like, guys, shouldn't you be nice to each other? And they're like, wow, you're blowing our minds right now. We had no idea. Mormons
Really?
kind of have that perception that he came and cut through, and Jesus's shit was not original at all. Like Joseph, he was one of many doing that shit back then.
Yeah, it's funny. Even First Nephi, like 10:8, that's taken from John, the book of John. It's like chapter 123 or something, like the voice of one crying in the wilderness. That's from the New Testament. And I mean, this whole chapter is full of New Testament like stealings, right?
But well, the reference to somebody that's supposed to come before Jesus, did I hear that right? I mean, are they not talking about John the Baptist there?
Who should come before the Messiah to prepare the way of the Lord. I think they might actually be talking about a Book of Mormon person, but I could be wrong. Let me go look at the reference here. I look at the Redeemer of the world, behold, the prophet who should prepare the way before him. The Lamb of God went forth. Behold. It might be.
It's a quote from Isaiah. The voice cried unto the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord.
But who are they referring to as the person who is going to prepare that way? Is it
John the Baptist? Yeah, John the Baptist. Yeah, that's Matthew, like a Matthew 3 or something like that.
It's hard to keep track of because in the Book of Mormon, there's like all of these fucking. I could make it. What was his name? Samuel the Lamanite. Is that what's the name of the guy on the wall who has all the arrows coming at him and shit?
Yeah, that's Samuel the Lamanite. Yeah.
There's like 9 people in the Book of Mormon that could refer to as well. So when you have another fictitious list of bullshit, it's hard to keep it all. Anyway, yeah. Even he should go forth and cry in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord and make his path straight. For there standeth one among you whom ye know not, and he is mightier than I, whose shoes latchet I am not worthy to unloose. And much spake my father concerning this thing. And my father said he should baptize in Bethabara. I guess I could have just read a little bit longer. I would have known the mystery. Beyond Jordan. And he also said he should baptize with water, even that he should baptize the Messiah with water. And after he had baptized, that's John the Baptist. And after he had baptized the Messiah with water, he should behold and bear record that he had baptized the Lamb of God, who should take away the sins of the world. And it came to pass, after my father had spoken these words, he spake unto my brethren concerning the gospel, which should be preached among the Jews, and also concerning the dwindlings of the Jews and unbelief. And after they had slain the Messiah who should come, and after he had been slain, he should rise from the dead and should make himself manifest by the Holy Ghost unto the Gentiles. Yeah. Even my father spake concerning the Gentiles and also concerning the house of Israel, that they should be compared like unto an olive tree whose branches should be broken off. And
which is really funny. There's going to be an olive tree parable later. And I always hated that because descendants who live in the New World wouldn't know what an olive tree looks like, right? Like in this case, it's not anachronistic because Nephi would know, but in later I'm gonna point that out.
I just want to comment also when you mentioned that line about Lamb of God goes forth, and it just Lamb of God went forth and was followed by Megadeth. So go ahead.
Opening act. Wherefore, he said, it must needs be that we should be led with one accord into the land of promise unto the fulfilling of the word of the Lord, that he should be scattered upon all the face of the earth.
And the land of promise is the New World, right?
Right. And let's be real. Mormons really just think it's the United States. They're like,
yeah, Northern America. Yeah.
That's where Salt Lake City is. That's where I don't even think they're giving Mexico and Canada any consideration when they say, and technically, if you're talking about, they place a lot of what's happening in the Book of Mormon. They claim it happens a lot in more Central America and maybe the northern parts of South America. Though of course some of the stuff is obviously he's describing parts of New York when he's describing some locations, but that's where and yet when they say land of promise, they're really thinking the United States. Because they also think that Mormon God inspired the Constitution. It's all a bunch of fun stuff. where did I don't know if I heard myself read. Did I just read 13 or 14?
Go ahead and start 13 again.
And I believe that the Garden of Eden is in Jackson County, Missouri.
That's correct.
Yes, I've been there. My parents took me there.
This is why Mormonism is a threat to the future, though, because Mormonism is, what if you take Christianity and you make it American, you patriotize it? And that at some point, I think, is going to be very appealing, if it isn't already, to like fucking the QAnon fucks and these people that are becoming so radically Christian and radically conservative, patriotic American. There's already a religion that fucks the two together. And
Jesus is already white Jesus, right? It's
they love that.
They love white Jesus.
Yeah. I inherited a painting that was on my grandmother's wall that depicts Jesus as having blonde curly hair and blue eyes.
Yeah.
And his father looks like a Viking.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
or Joseph rather looks like a Viking.
Is this Joseph looks like a Viking?
Yeah. So it's supposed to be Joseph and Mary and little baby Jesus, but the little baby Jesus, like I said, blonde curly hair, and then the father has got this big axe over his shoulder. So
Joseph who married
Joseph,
Mary and birthed Jesus. We're thinking Joseph Smith when you said Joseph.
Well, when they do the genealogy, both of them, he's in it.
Hang on, let me find. If I put it in the chat, is our guy able to put a picture on the screen for other people?
Yes, he can. I can't without disrupting what he does.
Okay, so I'm gonna grab the link to this.
Somebody says, Randolph Richardson says, it's great to see Jimmy Snow on live with Aaron Raw. I want to second that, Jimmy. I'm having a great deal of fun with this, and I thank you for that.
Look, I wasn't really fishing for compliments. Is my self-esteem low? Jesus Christ. I'm in Texas. We don't even have basements, and that's where my self-esteem is. But I don't need now it just feels gratuitous.
Isn't it strange you live in Texas and now you don't have basements? You moved to Tornado Alley.
And now I don't. Yeah, you're dead right. And on top of that, basements are awesome. Like, figure it out. I understand that there's some water table stuff to figure out. I don't know, saran wrap that shit. Basements are the best. They are cooler during the summer, and it's easier to isolate light if you're a person who sleeps in with the sunlight. Yeah.
There are some people that ask me, they're going to want to do an interview with me, and they say, is there any topics we can't discuss? And I like to throw in, well, I don't want to discuss the human trafficking ring that I'm running out of my basement.
Yeah.
Right, because you eat the children, right? You eat the children, of course.
Because I live in Texas, I don't have a basement.
Oh,
it's a safe joke.
Jimmy, just checking. It's the picture at the top of the link that you sent.
Oh, did it get okay? Let me look at when I opened. Yeah. That photo at the top of the document. I thought I was sending you the Google image link. Okay.
Right? Jesus.
This is the iconic Mormon depiction of God and Jesus. I would love to do this in the live chat. I don't, Peter, I don't know if you're ready to do a poll in the live chat, but I would like to poll the live chat and say, which one do you think is Jesus, on the left or the right? Because what's funnier to me than the fact that they're both white, somewhat gray-haired white dudes, is that they look like they're fucking twins. They
do indeed.
Yeah,
and it wasn't Jesus. Jesus died at 33, right? Why have they got these two cats at 55?
Well, at this point, he's 2033 or 1850.
But you're right. I mean, so one of them should be visibly older than the other. Both of these dudes, these twins, are both 20 years older than Jesus.
Yeah. It's at least, at the very least. That's if their hair went gray in their 50s. I mean, there's a little bit, if you look at the guy on the right, there's a little bit of ginger in his beard, which I appreciate. There's a little bit of ginger in my beard too. Now, I know the answer to which one's which. There's actually a context clue for people who might recognize something from the Bible. Definitely, if you were a Mormon, you would have heard this phrase come up a bunch. But Peter, are you able to put a poll in the live chat and see how many?
I can only see into one of their palms, and I don't see any holes.
Right.
I can't put up a poll. Arn has to do that.
Oh, Aaron would have to do it. Got it. Okay.
And I don't
Aaron,
know how, because old men in technology.
do you have the regular live chat in front of you?
Yeah.
I think it's the 3 dots in the top right. If you click that, there's like a take poll option. This is only fascinating to me, so I'm sorry if I'm blowing up.
I have pop out chat, toggle timestamp, send feedback, participants, manage moderators. That I don't have a poll.
What about down at the bottom near like where the send button is? Is there an icon near the emoji button that looks like polls, like bar
Create
graph?
a poll. Yep.
There you go.
I can create a poll.
Boom.
What would you like the poll to say?
Which of the 2 white guys is Jesus? I don't know. In the photo, is it the man on the left or the right that is Jesus? And so one option be left and one option be right. Because I am interested to see what people think, who they think. Also, the fashion is amazing, because if you look at them, they're wearing this kind of robe. They've got this kind of belt on it, but then they also have capes. Does anyone see the capes?
Yeah,
They have Superman capes, which you only need if you're flying around like this, because it just looks ridiculous otherwise.
So
yeah, I'm limited in answers to yes or no, so I'm putting it left equals right and left equals yes and right equals no.
There we go.
Oh, weird. I thought you could customize the.
Well, maybe it can, but like I said, old men in technology, and I don't want to bore everybody.
There's a message in the chat window I'd like to talk about while we're doing that. So
Sure.
one of the questions was, what's with the Mormons and their distaste for Freemasonry? And this is actually interesting because historically speaking, in 1828, Thomas Jefferson is running for president, right? And he lost the last bid for president, and a campaign is run against him because he's a Freemason, and Joseph Smith does not like, and Martin Harris do not like Masons at this point in time in history, and so all this anti-Mason Freemason is in the newspapers, and they're slandering quite a bit, and so even in the Book of Mormon, there's going to be signs and tokens that are referenced. They're always referenced in a negative connotation, and that is Freemasonry they're kind of talking about in those chapters. And then later in the history, Joseph Smith will become a Mason, and he'll steal all the Masons' signs and tokens and include them in his temple ceremony. So he warms after Thomas Jefferson wins the hearts of the people, after he becomes president, and 4 years go by, he actually becomes a very popular president, and Joseph Smith changes his mind about him and becomes a fan of the Freemasonry, and Joseph Smith Sr. joins the Freemasonry and everything.
I was always curious about that too, because American evangelicals seem to really hate Freemasons, and what the hell is wrong with George Washington was a Freemason, all these founding fathers are Freemasons. How can you worship the founding fathers and also hate the Freemasons at the same time?
The signs and tokens in Freemasonry and in Joseph Smith's time, they were taught in the 1800s. They taught that the shakes that they're learning and the words they're using came from King Solomon, right? That these were passed down from biblical times, from person to person, all the way down, which isn't true, but that's what they're taught in Joseph Smith's time. And so he feels like they were corrupted over time, and then introduces them to his temple ceremony as a restoration of what King Solomon temple had.
So enough of the votes in, I think. And so the question is Jesus on the left or the right? I'm sorry, everyone. It was a trick question. They're actually both Chris Hemsworth. So Jesus is on the left. The context clue that Mormons hear all the time that's super important to them for some reason is every time God never really speaks directly. He always introduces Jesus. And so he always, this is my begotten son, hear him. And they think that's another proof, basically. I think we can get the picture of the 2 white guys off and back to the other picture of the 2 white guys. and the anonymous person. It's barely changed.
So which of these mullets is God?
Yeah. It's wild. It is wild. I did like that he had an unkempt, his beard isn't like perfectly even, and I'm like, oh Christ, I understand. Anyway, that was very interesting to me to see if people would guess right. They mostly did, which to me probably means the fact that it isn't 50-50 and it's enough off to suggest that there was a clue. Either my clue worked and other people understood that, or you have Mormons watching this that are like, of course I know which one Jesus is.
I
would like to think
right
it's the
hand of
latter.
God. He's always on the right hand of God.
I know you have Mormons watching this because I hear more about people who have been watching this series than I hear about any of my own stuff these days. So I know you have
serious.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot too.
Nobody gives a fuck about the shit I'm making anymore. I'm doing a Christian sex ed thing. This was supposed to be my candle in the wind. Nobody gives a fuck. They're like, we love the Mormon series you're doing, but I love it too. So that's at least it's that's true.
Well, I am enjoying the fuck of it. You light up my Saturdays, to be sure. So I'm going to read another super chat. This one from the Trembler for $10. Says the standard Christian view of objective morality coming from God, he's the pre-existing creator and source, doesn't seem to work for Mormonism. If Mormons believe in it, how do they explain it?
View of objective coming from God, he's the pre-existing creator and source. Doesn't seem to work for Mormonism. I don't know if I fully understand, because it's kind of like God is a God of many gods who was the same kind of God, and as man was, as God was, man may become. As God is, man may become. As man is, God once was. Is that whole thing? But as far as
I was told by the missionaries that God was always God, that we can't be, that God was never some guy like me who got his own planet. I can be like God is because I can be a Mormon and I can live a saintly life and everything and be married in the temple and all, and then I'll get my own planet. My wife won't because she's just a girl, but God was never like I am now. God was always God.
I'm going to assume then you spoke to the missionaries before it became more widely known, that doctrine, because that comes from one of the prophets. The idea that
I spoke to the missionaries in the last year that blacks were not allowed into the ministry.
So 1977, 1978-ish. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And so maybe it wasn't as widely known. It's something that Mormons are now trying to rewrite too. In fact, the whole concept of the celestial kingdom and exaltation, they're trying to make more publicly palatable, because I don't know if they just recognize the hubris of it all. I don't know what's going on, but they are trying to do some rewriting. But the doctrine
they're trying to get more evangelical conversions, right? If they become more evangelical, that group of people, they can get more members, they can become more mainstream. People don't, because right now evangelicals think they're devils and that they're not Christians. They're trying to rebrand to become more Christian-like, and they've distanced themselves from God was once a person. But when I was growing up, God was once a person and became the God, and then Jesus Christ repeated the pattern and will become a God, and I too could repeat the pattern and become a God as well. So that was my understanding.
Even like they don't believe there was ever a beginning to anything ever, and so they basically are like, oh, we can conceptualize forever in front of us, but our brains are limited to understand that it was before as well. So like we always existed even before we were organized into spirits. We always existed as a type of intelligence floating through the ethereal nothing.
And we were never created. We always existed.
And then we chose our own parents.
But first, our intelligence was organized through an act of, pretty much, if you go to the old school stuff, God's fucking his many wives, and that organizes our intelligence into spiritual bodies. And then we come and get a physical body after we choose our parents and our family. But some of us don't do a great job at choosing our parents and family. So some kids have to come down to earth to be born to meth addicts so that person's kids ends up in my family. and this is like literally the story of my family, but that person who was the meth addict still is responsible for abusing those kids. However, had to happen to complete God's plan of those kids being in my family instead of her family, the person who gave birth to her and stuff. But she's
so
still
everything is part of God's plan, including the parents that I choose. So again, I don't have free will.
Yeah. Well, it's God's plan to them is more of he has his things that are the hard plan. And then everything else is he knows everything you're going to do before you do it. And there's no way for you to ever deviate off of it. So yes, you still don't have free will. Mormon free will makes zero sense.
Okay, I'm going to read a couple more chats. Mahandra fan for $2 Australian says, I just got an ad for a Christian dating site. And then Cameron Hall says, yo mama's so Mormon. She only started washing whites and darks together after 1978.
Except they still separate their white garments from all their other laundry. That's still
and the Trembler, $5. So more simply, if Mormons believe in objective goodness, what do they believe is the source of what do they believe the source of objective goodness is?
the commandments, the book of the basically, if you're following the prophet, then you're objectively good, even if the prophet's wrong.
It's funny.
So Mary. So your seventh wife should be a 14-year-old, and that's following.
Seventh, by the way, is probably not correct. It's probably in the 20, 25 to 30. It's the number of wives he has was almost certainly super underreported. This is why I wish we had Bryce on, because Bryce knows these things that just fucking, and he is down for next week and on. He's just been on vacation, but we got to get him in here because he just.
The official count I think is 33, and because they were asked to keep it a secret, there's probably more, like upwards to 50. But we don't know. We only have 33 documented.
We know Brigham Young definitely seemed to have size problems as far as like he needed to have more wives than Joseph. So it's probably less than Brigham Young's, which was how many did he end up with? Brigham Young wife count. That's probably not the way to 55.
Yeah. What a darling baby boy. Let's name him Brigham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then Greeper 123 says, would love to see Aaron do a deep dive into Eridu Genesis story and the Anunnakis. This was the precursor to the Bible. I would be happy to do that. I haven't read it yet, I will confess. But I read the Coptic Gospels creation story, and that was a mind fuck. That was like doing mushrooms for the first time. That was a very hard read, but it was interesting because according to the Nag Hammadi library, God was created as a reanimated abortion. And when the goddesses, who collectively female, when they created him, they then moved away into the shadows as he gained consciousness, so that God, Jehovah, woke up and looked around and saw only himself and decided that he was always there and that he was the only thing that ever existed.
Oh, that's cool. That's an interesting
twist. It's a fucked up creation story that punks God. It punks Jehovah. And the fact that it was written so long ago, that it was written like almost concordant with the book of John, makes it a very, very interesting story, even if it's almost unintelligible now.
Have you noticed, though, when you say it's a fucked up story, have you noticed that like a lot of stories seem fucked up because we were raised with Christianity seeming normal, but when you pull apart Christianity, it's super fucked up too. If as soon as you take that step back,
the Gnostics took it to another level. Like Jesus is on the cross and he's laughing maniacally because he wasn't a real person, right? To the Gnostics, they were like, "Oh, he's not ethereal."
Sure.
I just thought that was that's creepy as hell.
I'm going to read this chat. Hold on. Matt White says, if angelicalism is the vaccine against evangelicals, if Anglicanism is the vaccine against evangelicals, then Aaron and Jimmy are the colonic irrigation.
Hell yeah.
I've been called many things.
Hey man, that's where I want to be.
But a laxative is new. A new laxative is new.
Catholicism, I feel like, is considered the most normal version of Christianity. And I can't get past, we make the jokes about like Happy Zombie Jesus Day on Easter, but Jesus literally resurrects 3 days after, to the point where he can't be revivable. He has to be really dead with his wounds still intact, which is some Dawn of the Dead shit. And so they're like, oh, actual zombie, let's do some ritualistic cannibalism. This is why I say none of this is more fucked up than the other stuff. Growing up as a Mormon, and now people will be like, Jimmy, how did you not realize Mormonism was bullshit? I was like, who you're coming from the perspective of the cannibalism fucking zombie guy. How is this? You think this is stranger? Oh, we get our own planet. We wear special underwear. You think that after you eat the cracker, it turns into the literal body of another person? And that doesn't make you instantly throw up, you fucking weirdo. Anyway, I don't have strong feelings on it either way.
With the, one of the chats was talking about God and how, where you get your morals from, right? He's talking more relativism or not. And it's funny because in this chapter, I think in verse 18, that's he's going to be this. God is the same. Yes,
forever. Yeah.
For he's the same yesterday, today, forever, and the ways prepared for all men in the foundation of the world. This is actually one of Joseph Smith's evolving ideas of God, right? Like he may have started out with a very clear idea of what he was going for, like Jesus and God were Trinitarian or modalism, right? He kind of switches between modalism or Trinitarianism in this book, but then later in his in 1838, I think he'll actually split the two figures in half, and he'll write the first vision account as if it was two different people around that time. Like he thinks of God in this time frame as Trinitarian or modalism, and then later will come up into the splitting the God, and then has to make up excuses for how it works. But it's cool because this is the chapter that my seminary teacher taught me, that there was only one Jesus in the entire universe. So aliens on other planets,
I got this too.
Yeah, they have to believe in our Jesus on our planet, and that Jesus died, and they pray to forgive their sins and eat the flesh of Jesus.
Wasn't it St. Augustine who said that if there were people living on the other side of the earth whose feet were planted opposite ours on the other side of the world, that they would have to have their own flood legend and their own Jesus? And that's this planet. That's St. Augustine, no less.
Yeah. So I got the same thing in seminary. The idea is our world is so special, and we are so blessed to live on this world because we get to be in the same world that Jesus happened. Yeah. Whereas most of God's creation on other planets has to hear about the other planets, Jesus, that they have to hear about our planet. And so all of these places with their own holy books that would have been directed by God on other planets.
Book of Mormon. Yep. Their own
unlike
Book of Mormon.
our planet would have known other planets exist, whereas our planet obviously does not.
So just to wrap my head around this, you're saying that the people from the planet have to go 78 million light years to get here in order to do their Hajj.
Well, they'll definitely come here after they die, because this is where the Telestial kingdom is. The earth is the Telestial, I think.
Yeah.
Which ones are which? The sun is the celestial kingdom.
The moon is the telestial.
Telestial, and so terrestrial would be the earth. Yeah. Who fucking knows? It's he's making it up as he goes. There are Quakers on the moon, people, and fucking
and pilgrims on the sun. Don't forget the pilgrims on the sun.
Brigham Young, literally, somebody's like, hey, by the way, Joseph Smith, he said this crazy shit about Quakers on the moon. That's nuts, right? And Brigham Young's like, well, it is crazy because he forgot to mention the people on the sun. Why would the sun exist if not for people to live on it?
And Hiram, his brother, Hiram Smith, said the same thing. He believed that there was people living on the moon as well.
Yeah, and that wasn't an uncommon thing. There was also a prophet who said that there's no way we would ever get to the moon because God doesn't want us to. And they went to the moon like the next week or some shit. It was not.
Yeah, it's funny because
go ahead.
Oh, when they write the Book of Mormon, they actually say in the Book of Mormon that it's a geocentric model. The Earth is in the center. The sun orbits around. In the 1800s, in this timeline, 1830, 1829, it was common belief that Earth was the center of the universe and that everything orbited around. It wasn't until later, like 1839, that the popular belief about science started to come up, and then that's where all this planetary, right? Hey, we got planets, we have people living on the sun and the moon. That is the science revolution started to come in to the culture. And that's where all the moon star Book of Abraham stuff came from, because it was a very common trope now that it was very excited to hear all about the Egyptians and the stars, and people are finally discovering that the Earth isn't the center of the universe. We finally, found that out, that their stars have shifted, and so
I'm surprised they haven't claimed like Einstein's theory of relativity was also inspired prophecy, because there we learned that to God, the Earth still is the center of the universe. Like that would be their way to interpret that shit. Because you can make anything the center of the universe, you really can, but none of it is more significant than any other. I feel like, I don't know, that seems like a Mormon. I'm predicting now that's actually going to happen in the future. They're going to be like, actually, it turns out the Earth is the center of the universe. We're not saying that it doesn't. The motion you're seeing it go around the sun, though, relative to us, is actually its motion.
I've been assured that next week there's going to be a handful of other people participating in this show that have a whole lot more expertise on Mormonism than I will ever have. But in this moment, when we have like a skeleton crew, I'm glad, Walker Bow, that you have the background necessary to continue an intelligent banter with Jimmy Snow, and I can't even participate because I don't even have an idea.
Which might be his polite way of saying maybe we should power through a few more verses, huh, guys? Verse 14, and after the house of Israel should be scattered, they should be gathered together again, or in fine. After the Gentiles had received the fullness of the gospel, the natural branches of the olive tree, or the remnants of the house of Israel, should be grafted in, or come to the knowledge of the true Messiah, their Lord and their Redeemer. Verse 15, and after this manner of language did my father prophesy and speak unto my brethren, and also many more things which I do not write in this book, for I have written as many of them as were expedient for me in mine other book. By the way, that thing I did at the beginning where I quickly said verse 15 is sort of, it's not like a doctrine-based thing, but I just phased back, had a mini stroke, and was back in like a Sunday school class, because that's something the Sunday school teacher will do. Verse 16, and after all these things, it's not a natural thing. Anyway, and all these things of which I have spoken were done as my father dwelt in a tent in the valley of Lemuel. The tent, he notes the tent shit too often. I'm just going to say it. I know it's a controversial opinion, but boy, we really don't care how much time your father is spending in that tent, unless you're trying to signal something to us, in which case I'm not getting the message. And it came to pass that after I, Nephi, having heard all of the words of my father concerning the things which he saw in a vision, and also the things which he spake by the power of the Holy Ghost, which power he received by faith on the Son of God, and the Son of God was the Messiah who should come. I, Nephi, going to be too many, was desirous also that I might see and hear and know of these things by the power of the Holy Ghost, which is the gift of God unto all those who diligently seek him, as well in times of old as in the time that he should manifest himself unto the children of men. For he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and the way is prepared for all men from the foundation of the world, if it so be that they repent and come unto him. For he that diligently seeketh shall find, and the mysteries of God shall be unfolded unto them by the power of the Holy Ghost, as well in these times as in times of old, and as well in times of old as in times to come. Wherefore the course of the Lord is one eternal round. I take issue with all the times they're like, you can today use the Holy Ghost to get all the truth of God just the same way that they were using in the past. Like, sure, there was miracles and shit happening all the time, every now and then God would send a pestilence. And there was actually tons of just straight up evidence, and you didn't need any faith from the time period we're saying. Angels show up to stop you beating off your brother. I mean, beating your brother with a rod.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Grandma is beating off the Indians.
Oh my God. But you're sitting here going like, they act like it's the same. Like the prophets of today are the same as the prophets of old, which, a lot of Mormons do believe, and the church purposefully doesn't confirm or deny. It's clearly purposeful. A lot of Mormons believe the current prophet and all of the apostles literally meet with Jesus and God semi-regularly, like see them probably in the temple, meet with them face to face. It's some fucking, they are deep in the shit, if you will.
I have to read something else I just saw in the chat.
Yes. Pass it comes to.
That's Yoda. Yeah, right. I saw that too. I thought that was funny.
Oh man, too good.
Okay, so God is the same, unchanging forever. This is I want to share something from that I wrote about this. These are a number of quotes from Jesus and from Jehovah, if we're going to be considering these two different characters. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. No one comes to the Father but through me. I am the Lord, and beside me there is no Savior. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God. I am Jehovah, and there is none else. Besides me, there is no God. I will gird thee, though thou hast not known me, that they will know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none besides me. I am Jehovah, and there is none else. You have said so, but I tell you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of God and coming in the clouds of heaven.
So Mormons believe that the Old Testament God is literally Jesus, basically acting on behalf of God. And then Jesus is obviously born, and so then God takes over. And that Jesus, for some reason, as God, was just kind of a bigger prick than God was. He's kind of like, it's kind of like God is the manager of a Foot Locker, and he calls in sick, but he sends in his son. And his son's now the temporary manager. And he's like, oh man, with this little power, I'm going to be such a fucking fascist. But then he comes back the next day. He's ready to help stock shoes. And just look, guys,
I'm a little confused at that, because I would have these arguments with my family, and they would be saying, well, Jesus is God. I'm like, well, how is it that Joseph Smith saw Jesus and God standing side by side? Well, because Jesus was standing next to God. But you said that Jesus is God. Do you not recognize that there's Jesus and there's Jehovah, two different characters? But Jesus is God, but he's not Jehovah.
Yeah, Joseph Smith was confused about this too, clearly from his writings. He changes a bunch. Modern day, they use the concept of the Godhead, and that in effect you treat the Godhead as God, and the Godhead is created by main God, big guy, Elohim, or they have a couple of other names for him that are escaping me at the moment. And then you've got his son, Jesus. He's a separate person, but he's still a part of the Godhead. And then you have the Holy Ghost, who is still in spirit form. We don't know much about him and his personalities, what's his astrology sign, his turn-ons and turns-off. But he'll be the last human to be born, because right now he has to operate in his spirit form to help everybody else. And so those three people make up the Godhead.
And that's a later version of Mormonism. When Joseph Smith is writing the Book of Mormon, he doesn't have that mythology, and he's literally writes in Trinitarian language or modalism language. And for those who don't know modalism, just real quick, the Greek tragedies, when you have the mask of tragedy or comedy, they would literally hold up a mask, and that would be your persona, and you were laughing when you had that mask up. And then modalism is the idea that you're changing masks. So God would put on the mask of Jesus and speak through Jesus's view on things. And then he put on the mask of Holy Ghost, but he's always the same person, right? And that's modalism. But Trinitarian is a little different, where you're not separate in that regard. You're not speaking separately. You're speaking as one voice and things like that. So
so it's all not true I feel we should once again sort of emphasize total bullshit.
Yeah, from start to finish.
Yeah. So what verse were you up to?
I think wherefore the course of the Lord is one eternal round is I think where we just ended, which I don't know if that's I don't know if that's in a reference to the whole like as man is, God once was shit, or it maybe God likes to bowl and watching bowling feels eternal because it's so fucking boring. No one eternal round. All right, fuck me. Therefore remember, oh man. Therefore remember, man, for all thy doings thou shalt be brought into judgment. Wherefore, if ye have sought to do wickedly in the days of your probation, then you are found unclean before the judgment seat of God, and no unclean thing can dwell with God. Wherefore, ye must be cast off forever. And the Holy Ghost giveth authority that I should speak these things and deny them not. That's the end of the whole thing. There's no Mormons will also talk about, and I think Christians do too, the way that like anybody who had met God prior has to go through like a transformation process to make them temporarily clean enough to actually talk to God. That's supposed to have happened to Moses and the brother of Jared, and that being more from Mormonism shit. But nothing with Joseph Smith. And when Joseph Smith was a 14-year-old boy, first he has to wrestle with a Satan cloud. But other than that, there was no transformation done for him. And he's 14, and masturbation's a sin in this religion. This kid isn't clean. I don't know. It's an interesting. They literally mean you cannot physically be in the existence of God, though, and that no unclean thing could dwell with God. Literally, if you have a single sin still under your belt, you won't be able to exist with God, and that will stop you from exaltation. You could have done everything else perfectly, but if you had that momentary lapse of thinking about the wrong set of titties, you're fucked.
Well, it reminds me that the old rules on the tabernacle and who can come forth, and if your parents had sinned, within the last 5 generations or whatever, then you wouldn't be allowed into the tabernacle, and if your testicles had been crushed, you wouldn't be allowed in the tabernacle then either.
Sorry, we don't allow eunuchs. We need to drop your pants to confirm.
Okay, he's good. You can go. All right, I'm going to read another super sticker. This is from Ivan Giraldi for Australian $5. No comment on there, but thank you very much for that donation.
It was a super sticker, and it says, keep it up.
Okay, I don't know why that didn't show up in the translation that I got. Okay, so, and then Randolph Richardson just joined in. Question for Jimmy Snow. Does the God of Mormonism have a weakness when attacking iron chariots, or is that only in Christianity? Thanks.
I mean, keep in mind that Mormonism is sort of a Christianity cosplay already. So that whatever
every Mormon, I grew up with Mormons, and although I was never taught, it was never part of the culture, I understand every Mormon thinks they're Christian.
Right. Now there is reference to chariots. I just don't know if they are iron, and I don't actually think they are, but there are chariots later in the Book of Mormon. Mormons believe God, though, can just do anything. So if there's stories of iron chariots in the Bible not, being too strong for God's powers, Mormons would be like, well, God was just fucking with those people. It's just as a joke. Just being a silly goof.
Well, there's got to be some kind of excuse, and I think that's a very weak one, but I've heard worse.
Yeah, well, it's more of anytime God appears weak, you're missing something. Aliens. No, not aliens, but
all right, so we're going to be doing these every week for a while, and I'm able to do this next week. I don't know if we're going to have Dalton or Bryce or Fitz or any of the other people that have been on, but Jimmy promised he would bring in a small cadre of experts. And Walker, will you be with us next week as well?
Yeah, I'll be here next week.
Very good, very good. Jimmy, we're good for next week?
Yep, and I know Bryce said next week was good, so I think we've got Bryce confirmed.
I'm excited for Bryce. Bryce is my hero.
Yeah, if anything, I will have a note on my hand, like, you can talk less this time, dude. Me. Bryce is gonna bring all the boys to the yard, and they'll be like, "I'm better than yours." Damn right, it's better than you. Somebody stop me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm done. I'm going to read John Dundee for 10 euros. Thank you very much. Not to forget, Joseph also made it a requirement to have gotten your temple endowment and gotten ceded to your spouse/spouses in order to enter the highest realm of the celestial kingdom.
Yeah, and so this is where the church can't turn its back on being queer phobic, because it is absolutely key. It's kind of like how the church can't even completely give up on some amounts of the creationist myth, because the temple ceremonies literally say Adam was the first human. Now there are some people who do some apologetics on that shit, and it's like my dad is like, well, he's probably the first one with a spirit. Maybe there were humans before God decided like now's time to start doing my little experiment. But Adam's definitely the first one with a spirit, which is eternally fucked up if you have these sentient beings that are just like, actually you will terminate to non-existence, but all these people live forever. So that's the same thing with, it is absolutely key to Mormonism that to achieve the highest form of heaven and to have your family for eternity, which for some reason is a thing they think they want, is their family for eternity. You have to have a straight man-woman marriage ceiling at minimum. And then of course there is the polygamy, which will follow in the afterlife, because we've stopped doing polygamy on earth.
My grandmother got divorced at 70 years old to escape an eternity with her husband.
I guarantee you, if you talk to enough bishops, one of them's going to tell you like, well, listen, got to work that out on the other side. She might not have a choice in the matter, because the women are really brought along for the ride. If your grandfather doesn't want that divorce, I don't know that Mormonism would allow for her to leave him in the afterlife. Yeah.
So
yeah, and he can, after Jesus comes or whatever, he's supposed to rise from the grave and call his wife by her temple given name.
Yeah. Yep. That's the
okay.
Strat.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to see you guys next week, and looking forward to it. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to meeting your friends. I haven't seen the show that they do, but I've heard good things. So all about that.
Yeah. You might even want to make it what is that called? A bottle episode, where we'll plan to read Nephi 11, but you might enjoy just doing basically trivia with Bryce for an episode of just like, we could even say like, hey, Bryce, be ready. We've done chapters 1 through 10. Bring us the trivia we don't realize about those verses and shit.
That would be good. I can do that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Right. Looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It was a pretty good turnout today. We're close to 300 on this, which I think is a record for this particular show. And thank you for everyone that tuned in.
Hell yeah.